This is a Film Stories original podcast.
We made this.
Welcome to the Starlight Ballroom. Hey!
Hello and welcome to Dagger Braggers, the Keith Dagger podcast. No, of course not. This is Shipwrecked Comatose.
Fuck's sake.
Hi, I'm your host Matt Latham, and we are back again for another episode of Crime Traveller. We have definitely not gone back in time to start this bit again because I lost connection to the Zencaster session. No siree, I've definitely not just hopped back into a time machine.
With a watch that looks like a pager.
Yes, of course, yes. And with me are my two travellers in time, Mr. Mark Adams. How are you doing?
Dagger Braggers is almost as good as Crime Unravelers, but not quite.
And, of course, we also join with Carl Bryan. How you doing, Carl?
We could always be the Nicky Pickers.
You get worse, the pair of you. So wrong.
The Blessing Greshams.
Stop. Just stop.
The Holly Follies. But I'm all good.
I'm trying to think of one with a Slade. You're trying to think of a Slade one now. But whilst you listening can think of Jeff Slade podcast name puns, we're going to be talking about episode 6, Death Minister, which aired on the 5th of April 1997 on BBC One, written by Anthony Horowitz and directed by Brian Farnham. So what did you guys think of this episode, Mark?
Well, first up, Death Minister sounds like a Finnish kind of techno metal band, and I would probably listen to Death Minister.
Yeah. You know the live shows involve pyro.
Yeah, I in fact, if Death Minister isn't a band from like a metal band from Finland, I will be disappointed. Guess where I'm going? Spotify. Carry on amongst yourselves.
As Mark does that, I'm going to introduce our second person, Carl Bryan. How you doing, Carl?
I'm good. This episode, I must admit, I don't remember as well as the other ones. Obviously, it's coming off the trail of my favourite episode of the series so far, which was Sins of the Father. There are good moments in it, but this one doesn't grip me as much as the other ones do. I'm not in a full state of grippedness for this one, but it's still an enjoyable episode. But there are elements to it I'll be like, oh, okay, but yeah, it's still good.
So, looking on Spotify, there isn't a band called Death Minister. There is, however, one called Goth Minister, and there's a song called Minister of Death by Vicious Attack. Wow. I want to listen to Goth Minister and Minister of Death by Vicious Attack.
They're one of those bands that do children's songs on xylophones, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm sure. Wow, the front cover for Minister of Death is it's a demon with a battle axe and big wings, and he looks very happy, and he's on fire.
I need to have a quick Google of this. Well, search this myself.
Well, if the demon's on fire now, it's combating the price increases of the heating these days. Oh, a little bit of politics there.
Oh, wow. Oh, dear.
That's
I'm sorry,
right.
I've derailed us so badly and
I'd
so
like to see
quickly.
Other podcasts do political commentary using the album covers of a band called Vicious Attack. That's why you subscribe to this one. It's not the dwarf stuff. It's the ridiculous political commentary that we have going on during this. That's why Tony pays us the big bucks.
But Tony pays us?
Yeah. Well, he pays Kurt, and Kurt tells us how nice the money looks in his house.
Does he pay Kurt?
Apparently.
Mm.
You've not seen his new motorbike?
Oh, I'd like a motorbike. No, I wouldn't like a motorbike.
So Death Minister, the crime traveler episode. So see now, I'm pretty sure this is like the first time I'm watching it since I can remember when it first aired, and there's quite a few images of Crime Traveller that have stuck in my head, or things I remember quite vividly, and the episode where Jeff goes back in time on his own was one of the ones I've always kind of remembered. Now, I didn't remember a lot of the story or anything, but there's the image of the watch falling off his wrist and landing in the grass has always stuck with me. The only other kind of visual that's lasted longer is in the final episode, but we'll get to that when we record episode 8. So there are like kind of visual cues in this that have just like stuck in my head the whole time, a lot longer than the mustard jacket. So so I was quite keen to revisit this one.
Yeah. I think I remember it as well, because even at the time, I think I remember thinking it was a bit of a dick move.
Yeah, it's a definite disruption of the status quo episode. This one, anybody who's done writing knows about the timeline of equilibrium. Then something disrupts the equilibrium, and then it levels out again. But there are changes. This is the disruption to the equilibrium for the series, I feel, and yeah, it's done in a very interesting way.
Yeah, and I think it's like also like an episode which kind of starts to play on the fact that, and I've forgotten that, while not serialized in the normal sense of modern day serialization, there are kind of elements that kind of build on, as we've seen in previous episodes, that like little references that build on to previous episodes, where this feels like it's, if not setting up arcs, it's showing that actions have consequences, and it's building on stuff that's happened before. It's like, so if you've got an idea of how Crime Traveller episodes work, they're kind of disrupting the usual formula that we've had the Holly goes back on her own episode. It was about time we had a Jeff goes back on his own episode, but I think it does it in a slightly more interesting and slightly more entertaining way than that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because it's almost that thing of, can Jeff go back on his own? Does he know how to go back on his own? And yeah, we do cover that in this. Yeah. Yeah,
and there's a couple of quite interesting kind of little moments I found quite cool as well. So we open up on Slade and Holly looking down on a planning of a heist, which is a trick that we've seen them do last week. Watching stuff from above. Again, with like the kind of hero shot of like Jeff kind of standing behind Holly.
Yeah, it's the Batman and Robin staring into the distance shot, isn't it? It's
yeah.
But did you two notice what's missing from this shot?
No.
A cat.
Not the cat. What's distinctly not there in this shot? The jacket's not there.
What?
What the I don't swear that much on this show. What the fuck is this? Where's the jacket? Maybe this is why this doesn't stick in my memory as much. The jacket's not there. He's wearing green.
Well, dark colours anyway, so they must have learned from last time. Well, they didn't learn because they didn't get caught, but yeah, they must have realised we can't wear our usual kind of bright coloured ensemble.
Yeah, it's maybe they were thinking like, right, when the action figures come out, we need some alternate outfits for them.
Wow.
You know.
I can believe that level of cynicism, you know.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like when the Shipwrecked and Comatose the figures come out, you know, Mark's going to have like a few different outfits. You know, there's going to be a little cat that comes with it, you know.
A little plastic
there's going to be there's going to be a little plastic pasha. There's going to be a matte one, and then there's going to be a hob outfit, and then
fuck's sake.
No,
You're going to be able to
have
change
his own-
Colin's beard to like different lengths.
And Kurt's just going to be dressed up as Wanda from WandaVision.
Kurt's is going to have little cans of Monster. Which is a joke only the people who've seen the video of this get.
But yeah, Slade and Holly are watching over what is clearly are planning for a heist. They're kind of whispering everything. Someone says time is everything. In a sinister way. And then we cut to Holly's apartment where Jeff is rocking what is now a very dark brown jacket with like very boring. I can't believe I've started talking about fashion. Like
of all the things for you to talk about, Matt, that's probably not the best topic.
Yeah.
Ouch! Mark, you bitch!
I know, right?
You take that back.
I mean,
I'll have you know, just from looking at his Instagram, Matt Latham has more of a social life than any other host on this podcast put together.
He's probably right.
He goes to gigs all the time, listeners. He's a party machine.
I went to see Dance with the Dead the other day. I'm cool.
What's Dance with the Dead?
Mark, the important thing is that you believe that. It's fine.
There are synthwave goth bands that I really enjoy.
I check out bands that Matt goes to see on Spotify.
Check out Dance with the Dead, they're well good.
I like the fact that Carl's not commented any further on the bands that he's listened to because of me.
What was the one the other day? Pony?
Dead Pony. Oh, Dead Pony. Amazing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
Oh, I love them. They're brilliant. But yeah, so I'm not going to kind of derail this into a Picky Disc episode, but the very Jeff and his nondescript clothes, talking to Holly and his nondescript clothes, her nondescript clothes, are talking about stuff.
Not stuff.
Oh, I was going to comment on the clothes, but apparently I can't talk about the clothes now. Apparently, Mark, you destroyed my podcasting host confidence.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't know if I can. I'm going to have to sub in. I'm going to get a sub in. I'm going to get someone else to host for me.
I know what I know what you're going to do, and don't fucking do it.
You started this. No. No. I believe he's still stuck on that canal boat.
Good.
Oh, bless him. Well, the thing, this whole opening sequence is, it's in the best possible way. It's a farce. It's edited quicker, and the dialogue's kind of bouncy, and the criminals at the start are very stereotypical. Like they're dressed like Italian mobsters, but one's Irish, and. The best, you mentioned that they were like going over the plan of like you're here and Muggsy is here and Knuckles is parked outside, and they do like you say, they do the thing of and remember, and as one I think they're all supposed to go timing is everything, but it's a group of guys looking at each other going, is it now? Is it now? So they all just about get it right. But I think that was intentional, that they just look a little bit crap. Because like if we try to do it now, like on 3, let's say timing. 1, 2, 3. Timing. Yeah, that's what it came across like in the episode.
Because we were a bit pants there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just goes to this montage of Slade and Holly, and Nikki's in on it all of a sudden, which just feels like 2 pages turned over at once. Nikki's like tying a getaway car to a bollard. It's really
I
weird.
enjoyed that immensely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get this montage of Slade and Holly and Nikki and Morris even basically stopping this bank robbery, which, to be fair, anyone seeing the bank robbers walking around with a massive like gift box and glasses and hats and the long coats and the gloves immediately will call the police. But there's a bit where one leaves one of the underground stations and suddenly Slade locks the gate, which if that actually happened, there'll be a lot more people leaving the underground station. There's a bit where Slade stops the guy with the shotgun.
Without
In a
wishing
flower
to sound
box.
like a broken record. Guns. Again, guns. The complete casualness about, you got a shotgun, have you? Lol. I'm going to just walk up to you even though you've got a shotgun. Lol. Lol. This is... guns.
It
scare
seems more
me.
likely that the bank robbers are going to have a sawn off than Slade having a gun. The thing that gets me about this is when he foils them, like he's taken the flower box with the gun in it, and he knocks a gun out of one of the other robbers' hands, but he's still got the shotgun in the flower box, and it goes off. And he looks at it like, oh, it's a real shotgun. It's like, yeah, Jeff, there's consequences here. That's a shotgun. You've broken a window.
I just find the whole gun thing, it's so casual. It's like, guns, lol.
But it's
It's
a bit
the
when
90s, Mark. Come on. Everyone had guns. It was all guns and Channel 5.
Guns and Channel 5, the name of Carl's new podcast coming soon on the We Made This Podcast Network.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I quite like the but at least I quite like when Slade basically hits the butt of the gun through the flower box, and the gun goes off, and it's just the fact that like Michael French somehow just like plays it like, huh, what's going off, and just takes his glasses off and looks down thinking, wait, what? As if he didn't realise there was a shotgun in the that he's just shot himself. But I think again, like as we said, as Mark pointed out at the start of the last episode, it's character re-establishment, I think, where you can get a rough idea. But here we've got a more almost the start of episode 1 style character establishment of Slade as a character, like almost being kind of a bit too cavalier, and not fully thinking things through, which I think is the theme for the episode.
Yeah, it kind of ties in with that whole thing of it's become a game to Slade. Because he's time traveling now, he knows exactly what's going to happen, and this, that, and the other. So it's almost not real to him. And then this shotgun goes off, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's a gun, isn't it?" You know, it's that thing of, oh, it's not a game. It's not all fun of me finding out how to do things and being like everybody's top detective. Because look how great I am, and Morris is stupid and give us a snog, Holly, and all that kind of thing. There's actual consequences.
And I feel like Nikki's a little naughtier than usual as well, with the kind of lol, put a trap on the car.
Yeah.
He's been around Slade too much.
Yeah, that's the thing. It really feels like he's been brought in as part of the gang, but we've missed that episode.
Yeah.
In that Nikki's just gone, bugger it, yeah. I am so sad that we don't get a Nikki Goes Time Travelling episode.
Who would you prefer, Nikki or Danny, to go time travelling?
Oh,
Morris. They'd probably do a Morris episode with him being like refusing to believe that it happened, kind of thing, getting a bump on the head or something.
Yeah, or something goes wrong and he's accidentally gone back in time and they have to try and get him back without him knowing, or something like that.
That's what I mean. If they ever wanted to write him out, because if they were at, ratings are down, we need to kill someone off. Something they could have done was Morris goes back in time, is completely incompetent, and gets stuck in the loop of infinity.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's kind of funny, but also kind of sad. And like, how do we write him out? We don't want to kill him, so let's stick him in an infinity loop. Then, if he does want to come back, we could bring him back out of it and just have Morris be this hardened time warrior.
Morris,
like
time
Snake
warrior.
Plissken.
Yeah, with an eye patch.
Yeah.
Fucking
What
hell.
happened to you? It's just been tough.
So, yeah, the getaway car gets stuck after being hooked on by Nikki to a bollard, and we cut to a press conference that Grisham is undertaking, saying that they've caught a gang called the Apostles, and there was only one shot fired. And as she walks off, the reporters keep asking her questions like, how did she know? Who got the tip off? Did they get conformant? Blah, 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 which she doesn't really answer. We then cut to Grisham and Morris, where Grisham is like saying, "How the bloody hell does Slade know everything?" And Slade know everything, and there's a nice little exchange where Morris goes, "It's a mystery, Chief," and Grisham just looks at him and goes, "Thank you, very helpful."
I felt bad there because you get the feeling that Morris really thinks they're bonding. It's just he feels like he's finally hit that connection with his boss, and it's just gone to pap. But I like Sue Johnson does a very understated but brilliant Slade in this scene as well.
Yeah, he goes,
Where is he? Who?
Where is he? And he cuts to him like lying on the settee as Holly tries to fix something, but there's something wrong with the machine, sparks flying, something's playing up and stuff. And Holly brings up a very quite interesting point, and I think probably at the right point of this series actually, for her to actually start asking this and saying that that Slade's got a dependence on the machine, and that like anything that happens, and the guy's like, anything like someone steals a chocolate bar from a local branch of Woolworth, and the thing that I put was there. Where's the bloody plural? Woolworth.
Maybe that's how they get round it. The trademark of it is it's not Woolworths, it's Woolworth.
Maybe, but again, this very much dates it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
fucking hell.
It's like 90s. If they went to, if they went to H. Smith.
When did Woolies go bust?
Oh, it's early noughties, wasn't it? No. Early 10s, because I was definitely at uni.
It wasn't as long as ago as we think. I think it's probably about 10 years.
2015. 13th of October 2015. Oh, my 30th
That
birthday.
recently.
Yeah.
Good grief.
That's my birthday. It's like the 13th of October. So like, happy 30th birthday. Here's a defunct department store.
You'll never get pick and mix again.
Oh, no, actually I tell a lie. It was the website that went down on the 2015. The stores closed in 2009.
Oh, there you go.
Who ordered from Woolies online? What would you order?
I didn't.
No. It's
Woolies.
because of us that happened then, that we didn't buy things from Woolies online.
But the conversation that carries on is quite interesting, because I think it has a quite nice the kind of contrast that you have with double acts in TV shows. So you've got so for a good double act, you have to have a kind of opposing or contrasting views on the same thing. The big one that everyone kind of can jump to is like the Mulder and Scully, where they've got very opposing views on the situation, and I think this is the part which kind of affirms their kind of views on time travel. So Holly's saying, because it doesn't matter to you, you're destroying a lifetime's work. But then Slade says, but might have saved someone's life, in the process of changing the timeline. So which is an interesting conversation. There's two things to bring up. One is kind of Slade's kind of motivations for going back in time. He's a bit gung-ho, and we've mentioned last week that there's a bit of him enjoying the thrill of the time travel aspect of it. But I do think that he still has that, and perhaps some kind of altruistic motives in that he does generally think he's helping people. But some of the things that they do you think if they going back in time changes things after they go back? So like, they can't bring anyone back from the dead, but if they solve the crime and arrest someone, have they stopped a future crime from happening? Or is it the fact that it's predetermined predetermination in that, because there was always meant to go back in time, that they haven't really changed anything.
That's the implication that I think the telly show gives.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I like the thing of, and I think it's happened a lot more with time travel stuff since this point of, you can't change it. You can try, and this happens in this episode. You can try and change it, but time will always bite back, and you can't beat time, I think is the general gist I think I get from this show anyway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but say you've got that, you've got the quantum leap thing, and I've actually watched a few of the new episodes of the new version of Quantum Leap.
Well, how is it?
I really like the latest yesterday's, because I watched it before we started recording about like a couple of hours ago. I really liked episode 3. Episode 3 was the one that felt a lot like the older series. The first two is really bogged down in exposition. So like it's a bunch of, it feels like it's trying to force 5 years of lore to the audience rather than trying to naturally introduce a concept. And
yeah, I can imagine as well because it's an American show, they probably filmed the pilot and the first episode like ages ago to get it picked up, and then there's been a long break before they started doing the rest of them.
Yeah, and there's and I don't know how I feel about the focus on the Project Quantum Leap stuff yet. There's some good ideas, but I think they jumped the gun far too early with a few reveals. But they have the same actress who played Beth in the original in it, so.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, I'm going to end up talking about the version of Quantum Leap. I will be here for about an hour. But yeah, so you got the Quantum Leap version of kind of that time can change. And then but I think with Doctor Who kind of has the fixed points in time aspect, so
it kind of has both, I think.
Yeah. I think Who says that only certain things are fixed points in time.
Because is it the Waters of Mars which has, is it the death of the astronaut, which is a massive impact in the future of humanity, which he tries to change.
Yes.
But then the argument for that, though, in that episode, it's the decision of the person meant to die to fix things. So technically that could have changed if she stayed alive. But anyway, this isn't a Doctor Who podcast. You can listen to the TARDIS crew.
TARDIS crew is great.
Oh, definitely, yeah, if you're a Doctor Who fan, go and listen to that. Yeah, but I think, again, we might end up getting derailed on a massive tangent, which we probably won't have time for, because I'm keeping an eye on the time, and we're 10 o'clock, it's 10 p.m. already. But the kind of, the chat of that, and Slade's kind of like saying that he saved someone's life, I think there's an element of both, in terms of him really enjoying the thrill of kind of time traveling, and the fact that he gets a toy, or there's a way that he can solve crimes and stop the baddie in a unique way, and I think he enjoys that. And I think, considering of what we've seen of Slade so far, he's a bit of a showman anyway, bit of a cavalier, and I think he kind of gets off a bit on that aspect of it. And I don't know whether. And do you think that is slightly higher than the helping of people, or do you think he kind of? I think we've seen in previous episodes that eventually he's reminded afterwards, after the initial thrill, that he's there to help people.
Yeah, he does seem to very easily get caught up in all of it, and yeah, it does play on the ego. It's just like, I'm now an amazing copper because of this time machine. You know, I've made arrests left, right, and centre. I've helped so many people, but there is that feeling that is a bit of ego first. But I like the way that Holly is in this scene, in that she compares the time machine to a bus, which is a very Red Dwarf way of thinking about it. It's like, it's not like bright, it's not like super sleek science fiction machine. It's a massive wires and stuff that she's built in a flat in like East London, and she's done it on a budget, and it's going to break down. So whereas like Jeff thinks it's like, you know, Jeff thinks he's in Star Trek, and Holly is bringing him back down to like, no, someone's actually got to fix this thing when it's broken, and we're overusing it.
I think it leads to. I think it's like it's the kind of homebrew science fiction. So they're not. So they can't. I think the show's still kind of trying to ground itself, so it can't get too sci-fi in its concepts. So you're not going to get timey-wimey, over the top kind of Deus Ex Machina things to do with time. I think it's kind of like reminding the audience that they are kind of entry level. Like it's a cop drama with a bit of time travel in it, rather than a time travel show with cop elements in.
I think this scene does have something interesting in it. Holly says, "My father didn't invent the time machine for this," but she doesn't actually say what her father invented the time machine for. And so if it wasn't for doing good by changing the past and helping people, why did he invent a time machine?
Probably just to prove he could. Or just to prove it's possible. I mean...
Probably, yeah. I think the mystery of Frederick Turner is like very subdued, and again, I think it's particularly as we've been talking about it. I think it's only as we've been chatting throughout this, that perhaps the relevance of Frederick Turner is one that probably shouldn't be ignored, but we never got the chance to fully explore.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, we've said before, like, this is, you know, at some point I feel that we'd have either met Frederick Turner in a flashback, or he'd come back somehow. Somebody must be able to get out of the infinite loop, otherwise they wouldn't have, you know, named the first episode after it.
I think
it would have been
interesting
to. Yeah, it would have been interesting to me if Frederick Turner, like you said, we don't know what he built it for, if he comes back from the infinite loop and he's the big bad. That he's gone crazy in the infinite loop and he's just a maniac. I mean, there's it's almost slightly out of kilter line in this, where Holly says with real sort of vigour in it, because piece by piece you are destroying a man's life's work. And he's like, oh yeah, it kind of brings it back down to earth. It's like, yeah, you know, it's all sexy jackets and running around and shotguns in boxes. But yeah, this isn't what it's built for at the moment, because it's still, you know, it's still in beta. So it's, it could be getting destroyed by being used this often.
True, yeah. But I think it's the idea of what that discussion. I think as we were saying last week, I think it's perhaps building and layering kind of ideas in the audience that they were probably thinking about could explore later on if the show went for a second series. I don't know how I can't remember much. There's only a few things that I remember about the last episode. But I know the last episode, I can't remember if it comes back to this or not. But I know there's the time travel aspect comes back in episode 8 in a big way, but I don't. So I'll be interested to see what's explored in that one, because I can't remember much about that. But yeah, anyway, during the conversation anyway, Holly pretty much challenges Slade about the fact that he can do his job the normal way. There's another way to solve a crime, old-fashioned detective work. And basically bans Jeff from using the machine, saying that he's on his own and that she's not going to go back in time.
And what's interesting here is, earlier in the series, it was Jeff goading her in an attempt to get access to the time machine. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think she's no longer falling for his charm a bit more. So yeah, not falling for the old-fashioned lines. Talking about old-fashioned, we go to an old-fashioned house, a nice kind of like country house where we hear a gunshot and there's a woman that runs up the stairs shouting, "Ian, are you all right?" And we find that a man has been murdered. And then we cut to the police showing up, and as well as Nikki and Slade. Nikki tells Slade who the person was. So it's Ian Hawkins with 2 eyes. Oh, you can see all right then. No, Ian spoke with 2 eyes. He was partly Scottish, but now he's completely dead.
The complete and utter just blasé attitude. Someone's fucking dead. I mean, he might be a Tory, but still, he's just so kind of cavalier and lol, bloke died. And I'm like, this is the good guy.
Well, I mean,
I think the joke's more on Nikki, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's gallows humour, isn't it? I mean, you watch any like sitcom or anything that's set in a hospital and they say some horrific things, you know.
True.
So I can't imagine the police to be any different, especially when he's a wisecracking time-travelling cop in a fantastic jacket.
Yeah. But, so we have... So as they go in, they find Grisham and Holly already there. Holly's taking pictures of the carpet of the rug for some reason. We find out that Ian Hawkins was a former minister. The political party not specified, but we can probably guess. But
He's
Holly,
definitely a Tory.
yeah, definitely, yeah. But what I find quite interesting was that as well is that Holly moans that he was against single mothers and would wanted to have them deported. And in my notes, I'd written, so what would Holly Turner make of Priti Patel?
Matthew Latham. Little bit of politics.
Yeah, we don't get too political on this show, do we?
Oh no.
But no, I do find that quite good. What I found quite interesting is that the humanitarian side of it is like Grisham says that politics are not of their concern. A man has been killed, and they need to find the person who killed them. I just find it quite interesting. This is a very rare moment that we see the political allegiances of Holly as a character for a show that's not really had any kind of political leanings apart from the fact. Well, no, I'm pretty sure I made the crack that the family in the first episode were a bunch of Tories, but yeah, we got Socialist Turner or Citizen Turner.
Was this during proper Labour, things can only get better sort of era?
This was before. I think this was on the dying days of the Conservative Party. So I can't remember when the general election was in '97.
Yeah, and she's wearing red, so of course Slade's wearing yellow. Liberal Democrats.
Right. So no. Okay. So the So it was the 1st of May. So this was still. Yeah, this was still in the Conservative rule at this point. So I think this was on the verge of. It probably would have been recorded just before kind of push for New Labour and all this kind of stuff. So it was before the general election. So, but I think but at this point we was very much near the end of John Major's time as the Conservative leader. So it probably was kind of the signs at the end of Tory rule. So
that was your BuzzFeed quiz of what political party does your crime traveller character say about you?
Wow. Can you even access quizzes like that anymore after Java was killed?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, HTML5.
You can, okay.
Yeah, HTML5.
I had to install Java for something the other day.
Was it a quiz like that?
No, it was for a downloader thing for work. That would
the Java runtime environment's used for a load of things. A lot of things won't run without it.
Do you remember Newsgrounds?
No.
Yeah,
Newsgrounds was it was loads of Flash things.
Yeah, there's
or
a lot
Newgrounds.
Stuff like
was it Newgrounds?
Newsground, I think. Newgrounds.
Newsground.
That's that. Yeah,
John
Renovation of John Craven.
That's the but that's all kind of stuff that had I can't pronounce his surname, but I know his screen name's Lemon Demon. Kind of invented Animutation and the Harry Potter Pals and the Ultimate Showdown of Destiny and all that kind of stuff. And he's now massive.
Weeble.
I don't think he invented that, but I think Weeble was Parry Grip I think.
This is the farthest we've ever wandered.
Yes, we're tangenting like no tomorrow. But anyway, so venturing back to politics, Slade questions whether the politics may have got them killed, even if politics may not be of the police concern. Holly said that she was brought on to look at the blood that's on the rug. So you got the blood that belongs to Hawkins, but there's a second blood stain, and Holly says that the blood definitely doesn't match.
This again falling under Holly's massive umbrella title of science officer.
It's wonderful. It's an alternative reality where if you're good at any science, you're good at all the science.
Yeah, we're not ramping anything off. We're going to let this one woman come in with a briefcase and a pair of gloves and a swab.
I like the fact that she's ended up being Dexter Morgan before Dexter Morgan was a thing.
Yes.
Morris says that there's a recording from 999, and when they play it, Hawkins says there's a madman with him, and that he did it to him. So immediately, as we said last week, the sign, we're trying to figure out, oh, hang on, what's happening here? Could these be any of our two main characters? Blah, 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 blah. It says the police are already on the way, and that they saw someone run away, but didn't see who it was. Again, that's the biggest. This is the biggest. This was Slade foreshadowing ever.
Yeah, huge. This was Slade vibe. I didn't feel with the voicemail message where it's like, "There's a madman here with me. He's here with me now." I didn't actually go, "Oh, that's Slade." But when they said, "Yeah, the window cleaner was running away," and no one seems to be able to describe him, it's like Slade, absolutely Slade.
Yeah, because that's the catering staff from the first episode all over again. They also say there was a ladder outside as well that was left there. Grisham says she wants to sell fast as it's a very high-profile case. And as they leave, Grisham talks to Morris and says that she wants Morris to keep an eye on Slade and find out how he keeps getting these miracle results. And here we have Morris's time to shine.
What I like about this subplot is that the jealousy and the kind of watching a successful colleague, that's so understandable. I mean, maybe not deliberately trying to screw them over, but if you see someone doing better than you at your job, it sucks, and no wonder that Morris wants to get involved.
Yeah, I like the fact that she went to Morris because she can't go to Nicky because Nicky's already been indoctrinated. He's putting ropes around cars and tying them to bollards. He's already part of the travelling gang without doing the time travelling. So yeah, you've got to go to Morris.
Yeah, definitely. I really like how this subplot unfolds, and but we'll get to that as we get to it. So Hawkins' wife is being interviewed and says, "Oh, he had many enemies." Nikki comments on her pottery, and she says that she has a hobby doing it, and offers Nikki one of them.
This is a sad bit for me because Nikki seems genuinely thrilled to have this thing, which even I'm watching it back now as we're recording. Even I can't really work out what it is that he's got, apart from it's red and blue.
It's a very, very thin vase, I think.
Yeah, but then it's kind of revealed that he doesn't really want it. And he tries to give it to Slade. It's like, "Oh, Nikki, I thought you were so pure and wholesome."
Yeah. Yeah, he's been corrupted.
Yeah, it's the Morris.
They comment on the window cleaner as well, saying, "Oh, the window cleaner arrives every week at 10 o'clock sharp. It has to be 10 o'clock sharp." So, and that seems to be very emphasised on, for reasons we'll get to later.
Well, for reasons we can predict immediately, can't we?
Yeah.
And it is another person who is a grafter working really hard with a small business that Jeff Slade decides to screw over. Caterers, window cleaners, Just leave the small businesses alone, Jeff. Stop
These
it.
time travellers coming back in time, stealing all of our jobs.
Just no, stop it.
Ian Hawkins will want to deport all the time travellers, wouldn't he? But they don't even mention the window cleaner's surname, apart from that his name was Robert. But she does say that they should talk to Kirby, one of Lawrence Kirby, who was Ian Hawkins' former driver, who resurfaced to talk about Ian about his business proposition, and that he was there early on a motorbike. They were angry. They must have argued. This is the point where the fact that he was a former driver was mentioned. And this is when Slade asks about the pot and Nikki tries to offer it to them. And as they both jump in the car and drive off, and as they leave, they are followed by Morris.
Stealthily.
Dun dun dun. Yeah, so they turn up to Lawrence Kirby's place called the Big Box Co. And there's a lot of red phone boxes. A lot of them. They turn up to there. The woman asks, "Oh, are you in the bank from the bank?" And they say no, and then she points them inside. One of the YouTube comments on this is great because if there is a stone statue in one of the red boxes, and someone pointed out whether it's a weeping angel.
Wow.
There's a lot of who in this episode or future. I mean, we'll get to the
We'll get to it in this.
the-
Yeah. We'll
the
Yeah.
thing in a moment. But the actor that we meet who plays Kirby goes on to play one of the more major Time Lords in the Peter Capaldi era of Doctor Who. Over a couple of different Doctors actually. He's one of the, but he talks with a very kind of "do it, Doctor" sort of accent, and in this, he's talking in his natural regional accent and doesn't come across very. Like that, but he's got an awesome name. This actor, did you see his name?
Ken Bones. Oh crap!
Ken Bones.
Crap! Oh
good
yeah, 'cause
name.
he's the one where is he the one that we thought was well off? There's 12 of them in the
Yes,
50s.
that's him. Yeah,
We thought was well off. There's 12 of them. No sir, 13. Shit, I forgot.
eyebrows. Yeah. That's him.
Well, yes, but that's kind of like post Doctor Who, whereas there's plenty of kind of classic Doctor Who in this as well.
Yeah. It's where the worlds meet. It's also interesting. I think when they meet him, he's smoking like a chimney on screen, which is a very 90s thing. It doesn't happen that much anymore, I don't think.
But yeah,
Not that I'm nostalgic for it, but
Isn't there some kind of rule that it has to be baddies that smoke or something like that?
yeah.
But this fella's business, right? I would really like a converted red phone box. I think they're really, really cool. And I don't know, I just don't believe that the business flopped, because it's a well cool idea.
Yeah, I mean,
quite
it's a business that in the 90s might not have done very well, but these days would actually do really, really well.
So Slade and Nikki speak to Kirby, and he's shocked. Kirby said he was there about 9:30, but he also says that he didn't argue with Ian Hawkins, and they've known each other for 20 years, and that he was his driver. He mentions that he was being helped by Hawkins, and that he was a real gent, not like the Westminster lot. Except if he was a single mother, apparently. But yeah, and yeah, this is when he goes on about the fact about converting our red boxes, and Kirby thinks that the window cleaner mentioned the argument, and Slade goes, "What did he look like?" He goes, "Oh, it's just a window cleaner. He's just a guy with a cloth." So I'm wondering whether Anthony Horowitz has a real problem with window cleaners and caterers and stuff, because the character's saying, "Oh, he's just a window cleaner. He's a guy with a cloth."
I mean, he does go on to do Midsummer Murders, and in that, normally if somebody's working in those positions, they're a killer or they're slaughtered before the credits roll.
So I might be on something. And Kirby mentions that, the window cleaner must have turned up early and left early. I wonder why. So Slade asks Nikki to look into the window cleaner and the person they said they saw run off. Nikki then asks what Slade's going to do, Slade stares off into the distance and spies a familiar-looking big blue old-fashioned police box, and a smile crosses his face, saying, "I'm pursuing another line of investigation." And of course, what he's looking at is a TARDIS.
It's blatant as well. The music is blatantly the Doctor Who theme as well.
And this is after the Paul McGann thing. So this is like all hope is gone sort of time in the sort of Doctor Who fandom, because that didn't work. So it's pretty much dead. And I mean, we're still going to have to wait for another 8 years before anything comes of it.
Thing is though, can you imagine? Yeah, there's 8 years between this and the first episode of Doctor Who, and I remember rewatching the first episode of Doctor Who. That doesn't look dated. This looks like it's way older than the first episode of Doctor Who, and there's only 8 years in it.
Yeah, it's. It'd be fascinating to do this series now, because obviously technology's come along a lot more, and it would be. I'd be interested to see that, because sometimes when they reboot shows, like obviously we talked about Quantum Leap and stuff like that, you've got to either ignore technology almost, or they have to adapt for it, and it can almost ruin the science of the thing. So I'd be interested to see what this is like now. Just thinking about the 96 Doctor Who, I did see the other day, there's a documentary coming out about the guy who wrote it. It's called Doctor Who Am I? And it's all about the screenwriter who wrote the Paul McGann Doctor Who, and how he's avoided going to conventions because he thinks everyone's going to kill him. And he eventually gets talked into going to one. And like Paul McGann's in it, and Eric Roberts is in it, and it's all about that. Whether they're going to be showing it at my work, and it looks like it's going to be really quite good.
Oh, that sounds quite interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Let's keep an eye on that. But yeah, I think, I mean, culturally, I remember seeing, oh yeah, that must have been a Doctor Who thing, but only because of like the science fiction magazines I used to read, like SFX and stuff. I never watched Doctor Who at that point. I just knew it was just, for me, Doctor Who was something that the science fiction magazines would not shut up about. and was robbing SFX of more stuff about Buffy.
Yeah, for me it was. I remember seeing Survival when it happened, which was the last one of the Sylvester McCoy era. But for the most part, Doctor Who was a television show that was spoken about like it happened a long, long time ago. Or to me, anyway, when I was a kid, it's like, oh, it's a show from like years and years ago. And then, but I remember when the Paul McGann thing came out, being excited because this would be like a fresh starting off point.
Well, I'm old. I remember watching Doctor Who. Sylvester McCoy was brilliant. I loved every minute of it, and I was devastated when it was taken off the air. And I think if I'd have noticed this at the time, I'd have probably been pissed off.
Really?
Yeah, but I'm old. Yeah, I was a massive Doctor Who fan in So this was 1997, was it?
Yeah.
So at this point, I had a gigantic collection of Doctor Who videos, and I was probably into Doctor Who more than I was Red Dwarf, if I'm being completely honest. And yeah,
We'll be drawing up your termination papers from the podcast now, Mark.
I know, right? And you mentioned Survival, and we were talking about the TARDIS crew before, weren't we? And yeah, I went on the TARDIS crew as a guest and talked about Survival because Sylvester McCoy I was obsessed with, and I loved the film. Objectively now I can see its flaws, but I loved the film at the time, and when it flopped I was devastated because Doctor Who was my program, and I remember vividly taking a gigantic box of Doctor Who videotapes to university in 1997. And I think I probably was pissed off when I saw this, or maybe I didn't see this episode.
Yeah, I think it's actually kind of like a loving reference that you see.
Well, yes, I agree, but it's still the BBC referencing something that they cut that I want.
Yes.
Felt rude.
I don't think it's the BBC deliberately doing it. I think it was Anthony Horowitz probably like referencing something he enjoyed as a child. More
That's
than
probably
anything.
true.
More than BBC going, "Fuck you, people. Here's something you're not going to give." I don't think it's that whatsoever. I think it's Anthony Horowitz, just having a nod. It's like Stephen Moffat in Coupling when he used to reference Daleks and Doctor Who.
Absolutely. I think it was very much done with love, but at the time it would have probably grated with me because I was still sore.
Anyway, we head back to the police station. Slade goes to Holly. Holly reveals that the blood was O. In the second piece of blood was an O blood type, where Hawkins was an AB. There are also black hairs on the carpet. Slade says, "Oh, the window cleaner had dark hair," and Slade goes to ask about the time machine, and Holly immediately says no before he even asks the question. She goes by the book, and Slade says, "Oh, it isn't as easy." Whilst they're having this conversation, Morris very subtly tries to eavesdrop by grabbing a plastic cup and places it against the door.
Where was Holly's stethoscope thingy from the last episode?
I
Good
don't know.
Well, maybe it's a sort of one-use gadget.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, as he's listening, Slade asks Holly what Holly's up to, and Holly says that she's out doing a lecture. And Holly asks if he wants to go. I can't remember exactly what it's about, but I quite like the gag that goes, "Oh, you can come if you like," and then Slade's like, "He'll give it some thought," and then opens the door and walks straight into Morris, who nearly falls on his arse. And he just drums down and picks up his crunch cup and just goes, "I dropped the cup." Slade just snorts at him and leaves.
Yeah, it's Slade immediately knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah,
but almost doesn't care.
Yeah,
because it's Morris.
Yeah, there's no. I think he misjudges the threat. Well, there's not really a threat because it's Morris. Yeah, but we then cut to Holly's place where Morris is following Slade passes Danny, and Danny says that Holly's out, and Slade says, "Oh, I'm helping with the TV to help with the contrast," which is the world's worst excuse ever.
Yeah,
and if anything, I am pretty sure between the two of them, Holly will be helping Slade on how to turn on a telly, let alone.
Has Slade got a telly in his flat?
I don't think he
does. He's off grid, Mark. He doesn't read the papers. He hasn't got a telly. It's just solving crimes and ping pong.
It's probably does the Fox Mulder thing and sleeps on the settee most of the time.
Yep.
Yeah. But I do like the fact to help with the contrast. I'm like, mate. Yeah. But I do quite like Danny's line to this. With the electrics in this place, I'm surprised you can even turn it on.
And he's looking after all that stuff.
I just love how he seems to laugh at his own joke. He just seems to be kind of genuinely kind of really happy that he's made that joke as well. Oh, I love Danny.
Yeah, you know when sometimes you meet people who's like that is someone who's happy with their lot in life. That's Danny.
Yeah.
You know, he's doing what he wants. He enjoys it. You know, I can imagine when he finishes work, he goes down the pub with like 2 or 3 friends of his and just chats the night away, and that he just enjoys himself.
Meanwhile, cut outside, and Morris is distracted by a bin lid flying through the air.
Really nicely flying through the air. So it's a hell of a shot.
Yeah,
it's a nice arc. It's a nice arc to it. I mean, admit. Yeah. Which is probably the biggest signposted. This is a future version of someone. But then I do quite like how it's kind of subverted a bit later on, actually. Where it's not actually, where it's a present day person doing it, but Slade's in the room and turns the machine on, and then suddenly all the electrics play up. There's a nice shot of Morris's car alarm going off and the electric windows going up and down. And
it cuts to Danny in his little booth, when all the electrics, and he goes, "Oh no!" And the thing I noticed is behind him is a giant sombrero, and it's like, there's the story you want to know. Why's Danny got a giant sombrero? What's he been up to?
Yeah, I'm just seeing it now because he looks up and looks at the clock, and then just like, yeah, there's a massive sombrero just there. Yeah, but yeah. So after all the electrics goes up, and Slade finds himself 10 hours in the past.
Something I want to raise about this is Slade does quite a bit to get the machine switched on. And we've joked before, and in previous episodes, how Slade's like very laid back, very like gung ho, you know, as a time traveling wisecracking cop would be. But he's remembered how Holly switches on the time machine.
Yeah.
From watching her every time, so he knows he's not doing it at random. He knows what he's doing.
Well, it actually adds more to how much it's clearly not a whim. He's deliberately watched her and analysed it to the point where he was like, he has planned this. If she ever refuses, he would do it. It's not a whim. It's premeditated. And it just adds to the level of dickery that Jeff Slade's a bit of a bellend, isn't he?
It was
Complete
the
breach
90s,
of trust.
Mark. It was all shotguns and bellendery and Channel 5.
Shotguns, Belendry, Channel 5, the new podcast from Bryan, only on the We Made This Podcast Network.
That does sound like the 90s.
I'm going to see how many more things I can add to that list before the end of this episode.
I thought you might.
Again, though, I think part of it, particularly with this as well, it's going back to the question about him kind of, I think, driven slightly to solve the murder, but also, again, the thrill of it.
Yeah.
So I think he's kind of like excited by the fact he's sneaking behind on his back to use it. So I think
also there's the thing of he'll appear when he's done. If everything goes well, he will appear right back at the second he left, so Holly won't know any different.
Then again, though, I'm surprised the time machine worked because, like, last time we saw it, there was bits flying out of everything. So.
Yeah, I mean, this could have been the episode where, I mean, obviously there's bits where things do go wrong, but this could have been the episode where it goes completely tits up because something breaks because Jeff's been overusing it.
And, like, they have to kind of fix something because the time machine won't work. Yeah, but again, that's probably something that probably would have been a second series episode. But yeah, so we cut to Ian Hawkins' house, and he opens the door to find Slade posing as the window cleaner.
Good jumper. Hell of a good jumper.
With a jumper and some brown gloves. Hawkins says he's early, but then Slade drops Robert did say 9:30. And there's a nice little gag that I quite like where Slade goes, "Oh, could have sworn Robert said it was a bungalow." When he asks when Hawkins, but Hawkins that's in response to Hawkins saying where his ladder was, and he tells him about the ladder in the back. Meanwhile, as he sets the ladder, Kirby turns up on the bike, and as Hawkins sees Kirby, he goes, "Oh, it's you." So Slade sneaks into the house and overhears a conversation about someone cancelling an and an argument. Mrs. Hawkins overhears. Slade decides to try and hide, and he ends up in the room that Hawkins dies in. But there's no blood on the floor yet. There's a moment where, as Hawkins walks back, he sees an ugly teapot with two spouts held by his wife. And in a moment that's obviously meant to make us endearing, like the character, and make him endear to the audience, he goes, "I'm not entirely sure you are suited to this hobby." And I'm thinking, what a prick.
And then the look his wife gives, it's just that thing of like, oh, she could have done it. Also, that teapot is awesome. It's a large teapot that's got two spouts sticking out the front, kind of like Madonna's bra in the 90s.
Maybe that's what it was inspired by.
Absolutely. But if you want to pour two cups of tea at once, like for Mark, obviously that'd be the one he's about to drink, and then one to chain binge after.
I do like tea.
Just think about it, Mark. Back-to-back teas.
Back-to-back
I do like tea.
But yeah, so Hawkins goes into the office and he's confronted by Slade, and Slade tells him he's a police officer and there's a threat to his life. Hawkins interestingly mentions if it's about Kirby, but then asks a few more questions, to which Slade tries to warn Hawkins that he will be killed, and then talks about the time machine. Meanwhile, as this happens, we see that the window cleaner starts to drive up, and also that a figure has gone into the house with a blue leather jacket and gloves, because all the killers have gloves in this series. Closes the door in the room that Mrs. H is in. In a scene that I found extremely interesting briefly, the Slade says that Hawkins doesn't have to believe him, but he needs to know that he's in danger, to which Hawkins, and this generally floored me for a second, goes, "Oh, I do believe you." And then he starts talking that he said that he's heard of a Frederick Turner whilst he was an undersecretary at the Ministry of Science, and about stuff about it, and about stuff about his time travel stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And annoyingly, I think it gets slightly undercut when he says he hears something and then hits Slade around the head with a lamp, which is why he was injected with a syringe rather than hit with a lamp. Last episode, Mark.
Right.
But there's that. But I found that quite fascinating.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether, I mean, okay, they had to kind of escalate drama because Hawkins was about to be dead anyway. But that moment where he says, "Oh, I do believe you," and people in the government had heard of Frederick Turner, I found that really interesting. And I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah. And again, I'm wondering whether this might have been set up for stuff in future episodes, that there's a lot more people that know about Frederick Turner than perhaps we're led to believe, because we had Jack Slade last week say, "Oh, I recognise that book." And so I got a feeling that Frederick Turner's a lot more famous or more well known than we perhaps are led to believe. So he's not just a kind of strange quack who created a time machine on his own, but that there are people that have either had an interest or are aware of his stuff for ages. And
it does feel like it's a little more sophisticated than you might think on the first watch, because I think stuff like this is definitely world building stuff, and I think you're right that it really did have a lot of seeds planted that we never got to see anything done with because it only had the one season. And I think, well, spoilers for the future two episodes, I think there's probably more than one other time machine around as well. I think you would have seen 3, 4, 5 different time travelers, and yeah, it's a real shame that we only got 8 episodes of this, because they clearly wanted to very much establish and build a large world with a lot of stuff going on behind in the background.
Yeah, the performance as well of this actor when he's doing the I believe you, I know this, and then obviously he's very convincing, and then he hits Slade. Initial watch when he's on the phone after that, going, "Oh, there's a madman here," which is the message we hear at the beginning of the episode. You almost wonder, is he saying there's a madman here because he didn't mean any of that? Or is he saying there's a madman here because it's like, oh shit, this guy knows about Frederick Turner, we need to cover that up by saying Slade's a madman?
see, the way I got it was like, I believe you, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, he's going to phone about someone else. That's the initial thought I had. But then I think you're kind of right that I'm wondering whether it's just in kind of covering up what he might know about time travel in that. But I generally really like that moment. I was like, it kind of, I mean, I didn't remember it from the first time, because I think I think I was 11 when this aired, when I watched it. So I don't think I wasn't old enough to kind of appreciate the subtlety of that. But no, I think it's really it's one of the more interesting parts of the episode, I thought, and the series as a whole. And it's like, oh man, I really wish there was perhaps more we could have delved into that. But
also, the thing that gets me about this is Slade's obviously been using the time machine to go back, solve crimes, this, that, and the other with Holly. This first time he's gone back on his own, his master plan is to just tell them everything.
yes.
Just immediately, just go for, I'm a time traveller. I've come back to help you. It's like, even Slade must realise that is a bonkers plan.
Oh, it works with Touched by an Angel, which is crazy, but yeah, where basically like you have a whole episode which builds like an episode of either Early Edition or Quantum Leap, and then basically the Deus Machina at the end is the main character going, oh yes, I'm an angel. Oh, okay. I'm changed. And that's it. I'm like, oh, okay. And I mean, I only watched about 3 episodes of the show, but they all ended like that. And I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure they all do. But yeah, I don't think that's going to work with this, where it's like, oh, I'm a time traveller. Oh, okay, I believe you. So yeah, so as Slade is slumped on the ground, Hawkins then calls 999 to make the phone call. But the door opens and we see the blue leather jacket, gloves, and a gun appear and shoots Hawkins dead. Slade wakes up to find the body and that the window cleaner is driving away. Slade makes notes of the registration plates. Slade runs as Mrs. Hawkins finds the body and then goes back in the room, grabs the candlestick and places it back on the mantle. He then leaves and then goes down the ladder and runs away as the police arrive, and then it's here that's revealed that the police saw Slade run away. Again, not really a surprise.
No, not at this point, is it really? We can just assume that it's always Slade.
Yeah, whenever anyone's running away from anything, it's Slade.
Yeah.
Or Holly, or both.
Yeah. Slade tries to climb over the wall, but as he does, he doesn't realise that the watch face falls off the wristwatch. The police don't see it, but we have a close-up shot showing that there's 7 hours and 55 minutes left. Now, one part of this episode that I perhaps couldn't buy is that I don't think that Slade would have gone that long without realising that the watch face had fallen off.
I mean, obviously, sometimes you do that. You say you got if you got a bit of jewellery, I can't speak. Sometimes you do have that. You've got something, and then you go like, "Oh, where's my thing gone?" Like if you've got something hooked on your belt or something like that. But yeah, a large ticking, LED stopwatch, LCD stopwatch. Yeah, you'd notice.
I look at my watch all the time, and I think anyone who does wear a watch would surely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly looking at it. At mine, I think. Yeah, I generally don't know how Slade would not notice it. I mean, it doesn't seem to be wearing a watch. I mean, does he usually wear a watch? I mean, there's no way that something that thick and that big, you're gonna notice the weight difference. You're gonna notice the weight difference. If you've got a bigger watch,
particularly if you don't wear a watch, actually, flipping it the opposite way around.
Yeah, you're gonna notice a big, massive change in weight when the watch thing falls off. Yeah, that's that. I mean, I think that's the one thing that kind of like it was a bit.
I think of all the things to pick holes on, maybe this isn't the one.
Yeah, but.
You can tell when we record these at night because I think the later ones that we do, we get more picky about little things.
You get more tired and more nitpicky.
Yeah, the loop of infinity. I've got that handled, but that friggin' watch, no, we're not letting that one go.
Yeah, well, if you want to we can start moaning about them getting back at the same time they leave again. But that's all.
We've done that before.
If you want to repeat that comment again. Back at the station, present day. Slade looks up the van. Holly turns up and speaks to him, and and Slade tries to act cool, and obviously this being Slade, he does. Slade warns Holly about Morris eavesdropping, and Holly's immediately worried that Morris has heard about the machine. Slade smiles and worries, says there's nothing to worry about as they're not using the machine. We cut back to Morris writing down the word Kessler. Writing the word Kessler with a confused look on his face. Slade walks past and goes, "Here's the head, Morris." As Slade leaves, Morris follows again. Follows him again. And then Morris then goes for the stairs. Morris finds Slade leaving by the stairs and then turns around and sees past Slade in the lift. Morris, confused, goes down the stairs again and sees present day Slade walk into a taxi, and then turns around to see past Slade go into his car, and again is confused. Now, I really like this.
I love the performance in this. Yeah, the triple take he does.
Yeah,
So, it's not quite Crichton in the book depository, but it's close.
yeah.
It as well is before he sees the two Slades, he's got this look on his face like he's psyching himself up. He's like, come on, Morris, this is it. This is the one for the career. And then he's completely baffled. It's like he's finally got his head together, and then all of a sudden the appearance of two Slades has ruined him completely.
Yeah, I think as well though, because in the long term thing, we're just seeing the kind of not bumbling dumb henchmen, but of all the characters, the least threat to Slade and Holly in terms of the time machine is Morris. But this is kind of like the first instance that if they're not careful, they can be seen. And I think this is just kind of a reminder that they need to be more careful. Or Slade, at least, not to be as gung-ho, because he has been seen. Anyone else, Nicky or Grisham, they definitely would have perhaps been seen it as a bit more of a... They would have questioned it more, or at least followed it through more than Morris does.
It's that thing of the one who knows the most is the least threat. Like if Nicky, because Nicky probably knows who Holly's dad is, and you know what he's working on, and he would have probably been able to piece it together. Gresham probably would have been able to piece it together. Morris probably doesn't care to think about any of that. So you can give him all the info in the world and he probably still wouldn't put it together until like the last episode.
Yeah, but we see. But I find that I just find that as like in the long term things that the decision to have Morris see them first, I just found quite interesting. Nicky goes to see Holly and says that Slade told him to have a look around and follow up on the man the police saw. And he says, "Oh, I found something very, very strange," and then shows Holly what is clearly the watch face that she recognises immediately. And then I quite Chloe and it's kind of like immediate kind of reaction to this, going, "What?" But I think a mix of anger and kind of concern, I think, is quite well done.
There's out and out fear in there, isn't there? There's that thing you can just see. There's like Slade's took the watch, but overriding that is Slade's not got the watch, and that's the overriding thing because of obviously there's the layer there that her father got stuck in the loop of infinity. That's a spoiler for a future episode, but it doesn't matter. So spoilers for a future episode. It's happened to her father, and to have another person that she loves, but we don't admit that yet, have that happen to him. It's just too much for her.
I think we once again need to just point out how brilliant Chloe Annett's acting is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think her reactions throughout this series are absolutely fantastic. It's when they cast her and they must have watched the first few episodes of being filmed, they must have gone, "We have nailed this."
A question that I was going to ask you to while we looked at the big blue box. Do you think Michael French would have made a good Doctor?
Yes.
Because I get a lot of Eccleston vibes from Michael French.
Yeah, I mean, they essentially have that relationship in this, except it's got more of a romantic bent. Is that, well, it's almost the reverse, really. That Holly's the Doctor, and Slade's the companion, but Slade's the one who seems to be leading them into more gung ho adventures, whereas Holly's yeah.
So my next question was going to be: is that, and I would you think Chloe Annett would have made a good Doctor?
Oh, absolutely.
More so than Michael French.
I don't know now, but my dream casting for a female Doctor has always been Keely Hawes. I think Keely Hawes would be an
she would have been
amazing
great.
Doctor. But I think Chloe Annett has got a very kind of similar kind of energy.
I mean, if she was still around when they brought it back, if they were considering a woman from the off, which I don't think they were, but she'd have been a good one. She'd have been a good baddie.
They've still
Good
not brought back the Rani.
Exactly, yeah, they've not brought back the Rani. I don't know who they'd bring back, who they'd cast now for the Rani, but...
Unfortunately, it can't be Kate O'Mara.
No, and I mean, Michelle Gomez would have been a good Rani, but she was an excellent Missy.
And that's probably why we won't see a Rani now, because maybe they'll have a male Rani, who knows?
Yeah, they can. So, but yeah, because I remember kind of thinking that question when I was doing the notes for this. I was like, oh yeah, but I think Michael French, perhaps would have been a very kind of Eccleston Ninth Doctor type kind of Doctor. I think. And I think Chloe Annett would probably be something very, very unique. And I was thinking that I'm like, God damn it, why can't we have that? Why can't we have nice things? Why can't we have Chloe Annett as the Doctor? But
I mean, we're coming up to a scene as well where Chloe Annett shows that she can do badass.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. But yeah, so as we continue this, we have Chloe Annett talking to Nikki, and they're going into the computer room to find out where he's going, and they'll find out the last thing he searched for, as well as following up on Lawrence Kirby, and Holly questions why Kirby and Hawkins went into business. Slade arrives at the window cleaner's flat above what appears to be a closed nightclub. Slade calls out for Robert, the window cleaner, but there's no response until Robert shows up wearing what is clearly the same blue leather jacket as we saw the arm of earlier. Slade immediately tells him that, oh yeah, it was you, wasn't it? And then Robert pulls out a gun. Slade calls Robert bluff about shooting him.
This jacket, for some reason, I remember kids at school with this jacket. So this jacket was just like, oh, right. And I don't know whether that triggered me a bit in the like, oh, any one of us could be. And this actor is obviously he's one of those actors, like, he could be 19, he could be 35.
Yeah.
I thought he was much older than 19.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he's supposed to be, 19, 20? Yeah.
I mean, his pops was a lot older than you'd think someone who has a 19-year-old kid.
I think he was born out of an affair, wasn't he? So, but we're jumping the gun a bit, aren't we?
True.
Yeah.
I think the thing that kind of makes this episode not as, I don't know if it's not as memorable for me or what, but I kind of feel like this whole, window cleaner son, who it actually is that's done the murder, kind of falls by the wayside a little bit in the background of the Slade's lost the watch, Holly's incredibly angry, and Morris is chasing after the pair of them. He's almost like the D strand when he should be the A strand of the story.
Yeah, that does make... Yeah, I'd agree with that.
No, yeah.
And he's kind of... The reveal of him, it's like, I know it's you. And it's like, well, yeah, because he's the only one left that it could feasibly be. But that gets brought up at the end of the... during the episode, like, oh, how did you work it out? And Holly just said, I figured it out. Because it was quite easy to figure out, and we've all figured it out. You know, if it's not Slade and it's not the wife, then it's not Kirby, then it's got to be the window cleaner.
I'd argue the only reason that Holly found that out was because she found the Slade's previous search on that PC, which Slade only got by reading the registration plate in the past. But it's at this point where Slade finally notices that he's not wearing, that the watch face has gone. But as this startles Robert, he shoots Slade. Meanwhile, Holly and Nikki show up at the Kirby's. The one from earlier tells Holly that she's just been fired, and that her name is Monica Cox. She knows of Kirby, and Hawkins putting money into it. I've got no idea what my notes said there. Into the business, I think. I can't remember what my notes were referring to. But at that point, Monica questions the business. So I think the idea is that there was kind of laundering money into this business. And at this point, Kirby drives by, and Holly and Nikki chase after him. And there's a nice bit where it looks like Holly's kind of learned the Slade method of chasing someone. There's a bit where they drive onto a path, and then she suddenly realizes, oh, she's got an idea. Nikki at one point says she'll put an alert, but Holly says they haven't got time, so Holly decides to try and cut him off, forces him to a garage, and he then skids on the floor injured, and starts interrogating him in what could only be a very Slade influenced way by threatening to lower a car onto him.
This is a great scene because it just shows that Holly, if she wants something, will break her own kind of protocols. Nikki also raises the fact that it is a distinct breach of protocol.
Oh, Nikki. Oh, Nikki.
Yeah.
He's adorable.
Yeah.
If you're watching the version on YouTube that does have subtitles, because there's a couple of different versions of this, I will screen grab it and send it to Mark and Matt. Because it's been automatically generated, because it's YouTube, Nikki actually, in the subtitles, turns to Holly and says that this is completely contrary to normal penis procedures.
Penis procedures, eh?
I'm sure it's meant to be police, but yeah.
Why have I just suddenly heard someone typing stuff into Google? What are you Googling penis procedures, Mark?
I don't need to Google penis procedures, Matthew.
He wrote the book on penis procedures.
Penis Procedures, the new podcast coming from Carl Bryan on the We Made This podcast now.
Stop this. Nobody needs more podcasts. Maybe Carl can have a new podcast, but no one else should be having new podcasts. We've all got enough.
Have we, Mark? Have we?
I did have a good idea the other day. No. Crime Unravelers.
We need to finish this podcast. Yes, as Holly continues to lower the car, Kirby just says it's business. And as Holly continues to apply pressure, I just looked at the YouTube video that I've got, and it's currently frozen on the face of a very angry looking Chloe Annett, holding the down button, and it's like very freaky. Like see the anger in her eyes. It's But yeah, it's at this point where Kirby then kind of breaks and mentions something about a girl 20 years ago, and that Hawkins had an affair with another woman for 6 years. No, 6 months. 6 months a year. For a period of time with the number 6 in it. Janet, and the name was Janet Mason, but she was dying, and she lived in a flat above a nightclub. And Kirby knows something else in the fact that she had a son, and a son called Robert, which of course is the window cleaner.
Boom! The penny drops for like literally no one. Everyone had already found out.
Yeah. The audience being
I do like they try and put some suspense by saying his name's Bob.
yes.
Initially, it's just like, oh, the son's name was Bob. Oh, Robert. And it's like, yeah, we gathered that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Side note: Carl's just sent us the clip of the penis procedures, and also the clip from Crime Traveller. But
Lol.
so yeah, with not armed with this knowledge, Holly then goes off to try and find Slade. And then we cut back and we see that we find Slade being tied up and bleeding out. And what I quite like about this and the whole following thing is that it's a nice kind of twist on things where Slade's actually the damsel in distress and it's Holly that gets the rescue. And I really like that.
Yeah, it shows true friendship and love that Holly's willing to crush someone with a car to rescue Slade. And yeah, he's the damsel and she's rescuing him. But you get the feeling that she could have easily rescued, if needs be, she'd have rescued him at any point throughout the series.
Yeah, true. But I quite like that we've got this kind of subverted kind of trope, particularly in like a 90s show where it's the male character who's actually in trouble for once. So
Yeah.
So yeah, credit for that. I do really appreciate that. But before that though, so Slade asks why Robert killed Hawkins, and it's like Robert's like, oh, he killed him for what he did to his mum, blah blah blah, etc. Ignored him, all the kind of typical stuff you probably expect for the motive to be. Slade is trying to appeal to Robert, but he's panicking. Before this, we cut to Holly trying to find the nightclub, and she's trying to find it with an A to Z. I remember when I first got my car, I bought an A to Z and left it underneath.
An A to what?
An A to Z. An A to Z.
An A to Z.
I was going to say, I thought that was where you were going.
An A to Z. Ugh, A to Z.
Anyway, yeah, I remember buying an A to Z.
Z.
When I first got my car, and I never used it, just because GPS on the phone suddenly got a lot better. So
it felt like a rite of passage, really, didn't it? Buying an A to Z. It's like a thing that a driver owns an A to Z. And yeah, I had one that I never used too.
Oh, I used to go on road trips with my friend where he'd be driving and they were always ridiculously large, where you sort of sat with it spread out, basically in the way of the person driving if you're in the passenger seat, trying to work out where you are and where you're supposed to be going. Oh dear. I think it should be a good idea for me to actually buy an A to Z and put it underneath like my driver's seat, just in case something goes wrong with my phone and I am actually generally lost. So,
I have a spare sat nav for that reason, which I know is silly.
No.
Look at you, Marky 2 sat navs.
Marky 2 sat navs is the name of Mark's new
podcast. Yes,
song.
okay.
I was going to say
Mark's travel podcast where he gets lost and has to rely on his second sat nav.
I was actually going to say it sounds that Mark 2 sat navs sounds like a wrestling person. God, what is this obsession with you in podcast people? Like, I was going to make a joke about 2 sat nav Mark being a wrestler name, and you immediately jumped to podcasts.
Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. Robert leaves.
Sigh. It's been a long evening.
As Robert leaves, he sets the gas off to create a gas leak and tapes Slade's mouth shut.
they do the classic thing of you see the gas pipe and then it switches focus to Slade tied up, which is usually, as we've said before, the damsel in distress shot.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but switching it to this rather large chap tied to the thing I really enjoyed that.
I quite like the fact that I think they established that he's struggling to get out as well, because usually you'll have the hero shot of him, like the hero shot of the hero somehow managing to escape, but they're trying to establish that he's in real deep doo-doo here.
He's bleeding out, he's tied up, and he's thing, and also and then it just leads to the fantastic Holly trying to wedge the door open and not looking like she's having an issue. She is going to get through that door.
Yeah, I think just before that, she sees Robert, and Robert hits her and goes back into the building. And then this is when Holly tries to prise the doors open and then manages to start going through the window. And, like, basically, Holly being a badass.
It's a pretty wicked stunt, because he goes at her in a minivan.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that is Chloe Annett. Because, yeah, she has it. Basically, she has a go at the main door. She smacks it with a wedge that she finds, and she tries to pull it open, and she gets distracted by Robert going at her in one of those little Nissan minivans that a lot of builders have. And I've just looked at it again. It is Chloe Annett. She dives out of the way, and it just goes straight past her.
Yeah, I just had a look as well. I think it's a cut. I think the approach might be a stunt double, but there's a bit where you definitely see, as it drives past, and she's
whether
up
it's
against
like
the
forced
door.
perspective and it's like nowhere near her, or we don't know, but it's still an impressive, again, in the history of the show, impressive looking stunt pieces.
So does that mean that Chloe Annett's done more stunts than Michael French?
Michael French has done loads of stunts.
I'm joking.
All the stunts. He doesn't even know what a stuntman is.
Tell you what, if Michael French hasn't done all the stunts and there is a stuntman, someone who has done all the stunts is the Jacket.
All the stunts. That Jacket, yo.
Yeah. She goes in and finds Slade. She tries to turn off the gas. Slade he's basically freed by Holly. There's a nice point where he goes, "He shot me." He goes, "Well, that's nice detective work, Slade."
She's still angry.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that in this good, like, I don't know, 10 minutes of Holly being an absolute badass, she gets a bar of wood and prizes open a door and then prizes open a window. She smashes a bottle just without any sort of like thought to cut Slade free, and it still has time for a pithy quip. It's great. It is a role reversal in that she's the actual hero, but we've just not realised this whole time, and we've just followed the Jacket.
Yeah, and I do like how it is basically that the hero is Holly for this entire episode. I think that's rare for the 90s that they would be as bold as that and make the female lead the hero rather than the sidekick, and I think it's great. And
it was the 90s, Mark. It was all bold female leads and shotguns and bellendery and Channel 5.
Anyway, they escape. So Holly grabs Slade and manages to get him out, and basically the building explodes after them. And I think it's probably stuntmen, but they go really close to that flame.
It's again, really good stunt. And I don't think that's what you'd have expected from the BBC at this point in time. Not for a homegrown detective. Again, I can imagine general viewers would think of this as a detective show that happens to have time travel in it. Even like you weren't getting this stunt work in Bergerac,
Oh, Bergerac. Wow, wow, wow.
I've never seen that either.
Oh, you youngster. You need to watch some
Take Midsummer
Bergerac.
Murders and put it in Jersey.
Nah.
I think I Jonathan Craig, I think, might be higher on my list of things I need to watch, I think.
Get it watched.
We'll do a podcast.
No.
As they escape, the watch beeps and they've got 1 hour left. They've lost a lot of blood. And as they're getting closer to the apartment, there's an interesting thing that Holly says, and that goes, once they've gotten into the other timeline, it would not have happened. So the gunshot will vanish. The language of that is interesting. Because I was trying to get my head around this, because that would make sense. But you obviously have moments where they're both in the same timeline. Yeah.
No, but he's been healed before, hasn't he? When he got shot
he
the
cut his
first time.
face. Yeah. Yeah, it's because the time, basically, it's erasing the timeline he's just been in behind him. So once you've come out of that timeline, it doesn't exist anymore. So him being shot never happened.
You're right, there is a contradiction, because subsequently we've seen Holly do a couple of things like open the car in the episode where he was trapped in the boot. And if that's erased, then he never escaped from the boot. So it is a contradiction. But I kind of like the whole healing thing, because I would have really liked them to have gone further, and maybe Holly got killed and he had to carry her back and then she's resurrected. That kind of thing I think would have been really, really dramatic. So I can forgive the fact that it doesn't make sense, because there's lots of fun that could be had with it.
True.
I do like the line as well that we see there where he asks her how angry she is, and she said that she cares too much at the moment to be angry.
Aww.
Which is nice.
They're going bang.
We're heading... Yeah, it's heading towards, the romantic figure. They're heading towards the romantic finale for the pair of them. She cares a lot, almost to the point where she's not angry. But obviously, as soon as he's back in the right timeline, she's going to be fucking furious.
Yeah.
But then, if it didn't happen, why would Holly have any memory of it? I'm not going to go delve into it. It's like 11:15 at night. I'm not going to. As they get there, they see Morris outside. Holly says that she's going to distract him before Slade goes in, and it's revealed that it's Holly throwing the bin lids. So it's a nice twist where you're thinking, oh, it's going to be a time traveler. Technically, it's the present day Holly. So and again, like, Morris looks around, can't see anything, and Holly is currently hidden behind somewhere which, if Morris had bothered to move, would be able to see her. But
he was distracted by his car.
Yeah. Slade passes a very confused Danny, and there's a nice exchange. Aren't you upstairs? And then Slade goes, I fell out the window.
That was what I was talking about before. Yeah, it's finally somebody gives Danny a plausible reason why this has happened.
That's why he's limping.
And it works as well, because Slade's injured. So he feasibly could have fallen out the window and shot himself in the leg, because he's got a gun.
Does he use his gun in this episode? He doesn't, does he?
No
gun?
No, well, no, he accidentally fires the sawn off, but so he makes it to the time machine, activates it, electrics all do the funky wonky thing, and Jeff Slade is back in normal time. Holly walks in, opens the door to find a smirking Slade with an okay leg. Then immediately Holly asks why he did it. Slade says because he wanted to know who did it. Then Holly tells him, is it because of the stuff he knew? And basically says, oh, is it so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so? Which Slade is slightly confused about. And Holly was saying, oh no, she worked it out. But I still think that she only knew about Robert because of the registration number on the computer. But anyway, yeah. So she gets angry, throws him out, and says he is not using the machine ever again.
I kind of like the thing of when she pushes him out and slams the door, it makes the noise to say that the circuit is complete.
Yeah.
Huh.
And that's quite nice. The thing I don't like about this scene is Slade's confused as to why she's angry. He's smarter than that. He should know why she's angry.
Or is he
But,
just really,
yeah.
really entitled? Because I think he does come across as quite entitled during this, almost as if the time machine is his to ask. Almost as if the time machine is his to use. And, yeah, he's a bit of a cunt in this episode, let's be blunt.
I mean, I think this is the thing. It's been leading up to this, that he's going to get to a point where it goes too far, and you have to, because it can't just be, japes and back in time and that. There's got to be something that causes a problem, and Slade going too far, and this is what it's kind of been building to. And with 2 episodes left, it's like, oh no, Slade can't use the time machine anymore. He's just going to be, crime pedestrian as opposed to crime traveller. What are we going to do? Are him and Holly going to, sort it out before the end of the season? Are they going to bang? These questions need answering. Have they not been banging the entire time?
I don't think she'd be banging him tonight. She's very cross.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, though, Mark. Sometimes that kind of thing fires up the passion,
I mean, makeup sex is good.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a wrap on Holly and Slade for the episode. But hang on, we've still got quite a few minutes left. What's going on? And then suddenly we have a scene where Morris and Grisham are talking, and Morris is debriefing Grisham about how he knows how Slade worked everything out. Now, Morris explains that he doesn't know details, but he believes that Slade is in league with a secret network of informers that calls himself the Machine.
The Machine.
All he knows, he thinks that the Machine is out in the city, and that Slade has to get to it. But then it knows that Holly is part of the Machine, and Morris has a couple of names, Kessler and Newton, and that they meet around Holly's flat. But he also believes that Slade has a double or a twin brother or something, that when Slade meets the Machine, the double stands in for him there. And then Grisham looks at him and goes, is that it? And then Morris is like enthusiastic, saying, yeah. And then Grisham goes, well, that's the biggest load of nonsense I've heard in 27 years. You are an idiot, Morris. An incompetent idiot.
He's so happy once he's explained it as well.
Yeah.
He thinks he's proper nailed it. The funny thing is logistically, it is more plausible than they've got a time machine.
Yeah. And I mean, bless him, as much as we've like mocked Morris, and he has come across as an idiot, considering that what he's seen, that is perhaps he has kind of connected the dots in a way that is logically sound.
I think it's really cool that that's how it's done. He doesn't think that they've got a time machine, and for a normie, for someone who wouldn't even think about they've got a time machine, I think it's actually wrapped up rather nicely. It's just a bonus that the character that everyone loves to hate is humiliated in the process.
Yeah. And then the episode kind of ends with Grisham telling Morris to not bother looking to Slade, and to have a lie down. And then Grisham ends with saying that she'll deal with Slade, and then the episode ends. Ooh.
Now, so we've seen the other episodes and we know what's going to happen, but I'd love it if by the end of the next episode, Grisham comes back to Morris and goes, I think you're right, Morris. The machine is out there.
Fight the machine.
Yeah.
That could have
Slade's
been quite
double.
a fun plot, actually.
See,
Let's get the show brought back. Let's write season 2 of Crime Traveller.
Oh dear, let's not.
I used to write virtual continuations of shows.
Isn't that how you met Tony Black?
Yeah. Give me a few months. I won't write the scripts. I never got round to writing anything. I'll plot out a second series of Crime Traveller.
Tony Black does sound like a baddie that would turn up in Crime Traveller.
But I think again, as we're talking about, particularly with like last episode where it seems to be setting up stuff. So you've got Jack Slade, kind of, like being interested and perhaps easily opening to come back. What we have here is that you have the comedy side character, like look at something and getting not close, but seeing enough to raise suspicions. But then it seems to be purely there to set up that Grisham may start to perhaps look into what Slade's doing. And we've seen Grisham be not antagonistic, but definitely someone who would take things more seriously. And again, it feels like it's laying foundations for future plot lines to dip into, when perhaps I think even Horowitz was saying, I think in some interviews, that perhaps one of the reasons that he never continued was that he was struggling to perhaps think of stories. It's probably laying down foundations of other things to tap into, not just your case of the week. So I like the implication this is saying.
Yeah, we've got all these sort of dots on the periphery of like this could be about to happen, or this could happen, or this could happen. I kind of like the idea that they've got all these people who are looking into it, and then randomly Nicky finds out the truth just by walking in.
Yeah,
he just walks in and is like, "Oh," and they have to tell him, and Nicky gets it. I'd like to think in season 2 somebody else finds out about the machine.
Yeah,
and they're
Danny,
part of the crew.
Nicky,
yeah,
any of them, it'd been fun, I think.
Yeah, I think in terms of long-term storytelling, Nicky probably would have been the best one to have because he's also a police officer. But having Danny find out about it as well would be like having a Danny adventure. And again, he could have done that thing of Danny hits his head and he doesn't really remember what happened, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a bit of a cop-out to have that, but it would be fun to have a Danny adventure. I always thought it'd be quite fun to do an adventure because they've said like, oh, we can't tell how long we'll go back for. Having them go back for a considerable amount of time.
They could have done a season where they went back a year or something, couldn't they?
Yeah, they've gone back like you say, have an overarching story over the season. But the whole thing takes place in the fact that, they've been gone 6 weeks or something like that. Or that's it. Do it in real time, like 24. Crime Traveller in real time over the season. Yeah, that'd be an interesting one.
Beep, beep,
yeah.
beep.
You could really start playing with it, like in the same way that like Doctor Who started playing with things. In terms of narrative and how things are laid out, you could really do that with Crime Traveller, I feel.
Quantum Leap did the same, didn't it?
5th season especially started playing around with the actual premise.
Oh, it's batshit, and I loved it. I remember loving that they played with it.
Yeah, so that it started playing, like, I think Killing Time in season 5 was the one where I think it was mainly set in the quote-unquote present, where the Leapy escaped in Sam's body, and Al had to had to chase through kind of 1999.
And everything was neon, wasn't it?
Yeah, which isn't in Quantum Leap's 2022, which is interesting. Yeah,
you know what I'm going to say about the neon, don't you, Mark? You know what I'm going to say about the neon, don't you, Mark?
What's that?
It was the 90s, Mark. It was all neon and positive female role models and shotguns and bellendery and Channel 5.
Fucking hell.
And on that note, it's time to say goodbye on the third quarter of Crime Traveller. So yeah, we'll be back next week, where Mark will be gladly taking the reins off the chaos that myself and...
I'm not sure about that. It's more copious notes if you're the main host, isn't it?
Yeah, true that. So if people want to find you, where can they find you online?
They can find me at allmylinks.com/Mr. Carl, and it's the unabbreviated Mr., where I will hopefully have put up a load of old content. And I've also got a few ideas on the periphery for new content as well. So hopefully there'll be something around by the time that this goes out.
And Mark, where can people find you?
If you're looking for me, it's at MarkAdamsHC on Twitter and Instagram. My Instagram is very, very kind of celebrant job focused. My Twitter, I mix it up a bit and I put a bit of wrestling on there. I put a bit of podcasting on there. I put a bit of left-wing politics on there. And I put some celebrant stuff on as well.
Cool, and you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under Picky Disc, which is about my podcast where I talk to people about music, blah, 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 blah. If you listen to previous episodes, you'll know the spiel by now. I've also got a kind of, at the time recording, still relatively new podcast. Well, it's relatively new. There was one episode and a 2-year gap in between where I talk about interactive fiction and adventure games called Ask Us About Loom. And I'm also involved in the No Book Club Yellow Jackets podcast with Kurt. So, yeah, you can find them on wherever you look at podcasts. As Colin says, you're listening to a podcast, you should know where to find them. So, with that, that's all that's left to say is...
It was the 90s, Mark. It was all damn it, Slade.
Shipwrecked and Comatose, a Red Dwarf podcast, was created and produced by Mark Adams and Kurt North. You can find us on Twitter at Red Dwarf Pod, and we are part of the We Made This Podcast network, which can be found online at wemadethispod.com or on Twitter at We Made This Pod.
Do you know your Daleks from your Drashings?
Or your Zygons from your Zagreus?
Do you know what the TARDIS stands for?
And do you know which Doctor Who stories featured Kevin Grimlock, the cyborg T-Rex that became the Doctor's companion?
Then this is a Doctor Who podcast for you. I'm Baz Green, and each fortnight I chat to my son Ben.
Hello.
And the occasional guest as we cover 60 years of Doctor Who on TV, Big Finish and more.
And I did really enjoy that one. Except that wasn't really actual pirates, it was Badger pirates in space, but it was still piratey.
Badger pirates in space?
Yes. But I am willing to make an exception for pirates this episode.
Donald Sumpter is amazing.
He's good.
I love the fact that he just pops up. He just pops up. Probably Rassilon. Probably.
Well, they do confirm later on he is.
I think they do.
Yeah,
don't
he
they?
says on Rassilon the Redeemer.
Of course he does. Bloody hell!
And he has the gauntlet as well, which gives the hint of that.
Yeah.
I'm nodding profusely.
Yeah, we're very proper classic Doctor Who as well. A lot of it as well.
Yes.
In a week has done more for the show than the last 5 years.
I do like how Ross Lee Davies is kind of the PR spokesman for the Centurion special. That's quite fun.
Yeah. And he's also saying, oh well, Jodie and Chibnall still have an episode left. I'm not going to tread on their feet, but he is 14, just so you know, for the filming purposes. And a week later, oh yeah, by the way, these guys are back. Just thought you'd want to know. Find us on the We Made This network.
And all good podcast providers.
What about the bad ones?
Yes, them too.
Ah, good.
Because somewhere there's danger.
Somewhere there's injustice.
Somewhere else, the tea's getting cold.
You know, we probably should throw that tea away now. It has been sat there since 1989.